Jaap, thank you very much to be with us here at Adopt AI.
Thank you.
We are
really,
very...
Thank you. Congratulations, by the way, with a nice event. Thank you.
Thanks to you. It's really great to have you and to have Nvidia represented here, because Nvidia is in the limelight of AI, and everybody talks about Nvidia. So for us, it's very important to also have your voice here today. Jaap, you are Vice President EMEA at Nvidia, and we love to see and to know more about your vision on AI adoption. So how do you see the adoption of AI in different industries?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think right now, as I speak, in every industry, there is an interest in what's happening, especially in generative AI. What does it mean for my business, and how do I approach it? Yeah. In general, I would say, per industry, there is not one industry which is more, which I would say is more focused on it. So it's all over all industries. But I could say those industries where compute plays a very important role, like, for example, in healthcare, or in finance, or even in automotive, those industries, of course, are being focused out, because there, this technology will play a larger influence in what people are doing in the market. It all depends on what you're doing to the market, how you approach your services to the customer, what do you want to achieve. But also in the service industry, and I talk about software partners, let's use SAP as an example, or ServiceNow. They integrated this technology very good into their offerings, and that's where you see it working. Amdocs, for example, Amdocs is one of the largest billing providers to the telco world. They integrated generative AI in their offering, and that's where you see it really taking off. So it's over every industry I'm just mentioning, I can tell you. Everybody is looking at it, everybody is interested. And it goes right through, the French industry, which, let's face it, one of the leading is the, LVMH, is... those brands are so much looking at what this means for my industry. So it's around every industry, yes.
Okay, and actually, Jaap, you're a specialist of automotive. Huh? What are the specificities of AI adoption in automotive?
Yeah, I'm not so much a specialist in automotive, by the way. I love cars. Maybe that's a little bit a thing. But interesting enough, in everything an automotive company does, this will help them. It's right from designing a car, putting the car on the market, yeah, understanding how to give a good customer service, yeah, right to the production. It doesn't matter. In every part of that chain of how they produce a car, this technology will play a role. Yeah, and let me start with production, for example. We're looking at building virtual factories with the help of generative AI and Omniverse. Yeah, how do you build a virtual factory, and how do you then build it realistically? That's saving them billions. Yeah, that's an example. We're working together with Siemens on that. But also designing a car, and how do you sell it, for example, to a customer, and how does he make an individual choice, and how do you then produce it? That's something they're understanding much better, and which is saving them a lot of money. But also, if you look at self-driving cars, we're working very closely, for example, with Mercedes and GLR. We're going to put the first self-driving Mercedes next year on the market. One of the leading partners, by the way, which is pretty far in Europe on this, is Wave. Maybe you've heard of them. But honestly, if you look at what Mercedes is doing and what GLR are doing, that will also advance the industry. So it doesn't matter in which part of the business you look at automotive. It's a very interesting business, because in every part of what they do, this technology will play a role.
And so if we go on the examples, for instance, what is the best examples of generative AI applied to business you have seen in France or Europe?
Well, so it's interesting, because And let me answer that question. And maybe you wouldn't expect this answer, but one of the things which I see, which is really happening in France, is that France has been very good in getting resources with knowledge. So knowledge is so important. And there are some people with a lot of knowledge who basically came back to France, I would say, like Jan LeCun, and I can mention others. That initiated a lot of things, but there are two players here. Like, for example, Mistral is the best example, one of the leading generative AI companies in the world, I can say, for sure, in Europe. And the amount of momentum around that, what they are doing, how they are approaching it, is just spectacular. It's really, and it needs a lot of bravery to do that. But also the whole ecosystem in France is really starting to work together, and that is important. It's right from the education to bringing in resources with knowledge, keeping also the people here, working together and stimulating each other, and the industries which are really waking up and starting to understand, hey, this technology, I think, will differentiate my business, and that's important also, and that those industries start working with it, understand what it means for them, because that's another thing. You know, we've been talking too long around it in Europe, and if we don't start working with it, you don't know what the technology is doing. Because one of the things I see, we always talk a lot in Europe around, hey, is it safe? Well, you only know if it's safe if you understand what the technology does. So I always say to people, start working with it and understand what it happened, what it does, what it can mean for your business. And if you don't do that early enough, you're going to miss the boat. Because honestly, if I look at this globally, and I can have a view of Middle East, Africa, and Europe, and if I look at it from only that perspective, I can tell you that Middle East is pretty advanced. They're taking it full on board. And that's something which we all should be aware of. If I look at the US, they are miles ahead of what is happening in Europe, and we need to understand that. And those businesses who operate globally understand that very well. Yeah. Example, LVMH knows that. L'Oreal know that. They know that very well, and they know what they need to do. So that's where I see people waking up and doing something about it. Because if you don't do it, they will not be there anymore in a couple of years. That's how I see it.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking about the next years, how do you see the future of LLM and generative AI from the Nvidia perspective? What is the next big thing, the next steps? What do you see?
Yeah, that's a very good question. One of the things, we will have a couple of foundational models, like, for example, Mistral, ChatGPT, Falcon. That is for the Middle East, yeah? And there are more, I say, foundational models. Let's say around 20 to 30, because to make a foundational model is not easy. First of all, from the knowledge factor and how to approach it and how you're going to make money out of it, and the investment on it is immense. And then you will have, based on that, you will have a lot of specialized models, a lot, specialized to the business. So if we talk about large language models, for example, and you see it coming already in, for example, the healthcare industry. Yeah, if I look at the different sectors of healthcare, you have some models which are really specialized, really niche, and that's where I think it will be. But what's really important, how easy will it be to use those models? So how easy will it be to download it, to take the software and work with it? Because that in the end will drive the usage. It's the easiness. But I can tell you one thing. Generative AI, in a certain sense, if I translate it to a very easy words, it's a human being telling a computer what to do. That's the big thing. Yeah, so you can basically direct a computer in whatever direction you want. Still a computer, it's about ones and zeros. It will not do the things if you tell him not to do that, he will not do it. But this is very important. If you understand that and know the power of that, you will understand very quickly what it will mean for you. And that's why I say, in an early stage, start to understand it, start working with it, and it will change your whole business process. I can tell you, it will change your business process, how you define your processes, how quickly you can react. Because, you know, today, if you want to make a change, it takes 2 years, which is, that I can tell you, that's not going to work. And today, startups can be valued 1 billion with only 10 people in a year. If you really understand how to approach a market, understand how to build your product, and that's what I think is driving the change. That's why I believe, you know, what you have here is so important, what you're focusing to, because the startups are going to make the difference. And we need to foster that really, and I mean that seriously. We need to really understand how important that is, because they will drive what's happening in the market today and not the big companies, I believe.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing this vision with us here at Adopt AI. And very important for us to have Nvidia represented, because you're the most watched companies currently. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and success. Oh, thank you.